Good morning everyone, Gajan here, and this is the sequel you've been waiting for. I'm gonna give you my top 5 Fujifilm lenses geared toward photography. Let's get this started. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And it's no secret, my most watched video is the top 3 Fujifilm lenses video. It's something that still brings a ton of new subscribers to the channel, and I appreciate you guys if you found me that way. And after some time from making that video, there's been a lot of new lenses announced, and there's been a lot of new lenses that have been added to my collection. Some have been removed from my collection, but all in all, I have a new top 5. Now, I don't bring all of these lenses with me for every production, but depending on what I'm capturing, I'll take 3 of these lenses at a time. But the suite of 5 lenses, well, this is something that I feel needs to be part of my collection. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into this list. The first lens on my list is that 23mm f2.0, and I absolutely love this lens, and the only way I'm replacing this lens is if Fuji announces a Mark II version. It is a hair or two better than the lens that's included with the Fujifilm X100V. I had to do a good amount of testing, and then I came to the conclusion, and talking to some of the engineers at Fuji, they confirmed this as well. But you have a lens here that's that everyday product where it'll work in as low as -10 degrees, but also in some of the most humid and arid environments, and sometimes even in the rain, because it is weather resistant as well. It gives you that 35mm focal length that feels, what your human eye captures. And all in all, it's just in a really nice portable package. The focusing on this lens keeps up incredibly well, even better than some of the more premium products, let alone its 1.4 counterpart. And it does this very quietly, especially when you're in discrete environments or in the streets. You're not hearing that grinding of the focusing trying to land and lock on a subject. For more information on this lens, do check out my full review, but I gotta tell you, when you're in the streets and when you're especially north of F4, it is such a fantastic product that produces great results in a reliable way and at a really good price point. It's the first lens I got. And I even thought that maybe I'll graduate or leave it for another lens. After 3 years, this is still part of my collection and something that we use regularly throughout our productions. Personally, I use this for a lot of behind the scenes capturing in a very discreet and quick way. I'll even use it for some personal vlogging every now and then. And I have to say, its suite of features make it one of my staples and in my top 5. Now, this list is going in order from my most to least favorite. I shouldn't even say least favorite. I guess, top 5 in my personal ranking. And I'll say number 2 on the list is the 90mm f2, which is that lens looking at me right over here. This is my new portrait lens. It delivers phenomenal results. The autofocus is incredibly well. You have weather resistance, and while the f2 might make it seem like it's not really a portrait lens, because some people might assume that it's a Fujicron. It's not. No, this is definitely a portrait lens, a premium product. And with this focal length, being able to get a tighter composition, being able to throw the background even further away leads to some phenomenal results. And again, we did a review on this lens. You want to go there and see all the details there, but it is my number 2 favorite lens on the Fujifilm system. I had the 56 for a very long time, and I thought this would be my portrait lens for a very long time. But when I got this recommended to me, and to the credit of some of you viewers that suggested I try this lens out, well, there was no going back. I had to make this my dedicated portrait lens. Now, it's not just for photo work. For video work, this camera is incredibly great to use in the field. It offers a really intimate perspective that makes for really unique B-roll. It's something that I didn't think of first when I got it, but as I used it more and more, well, it's just something that I take with me for even video productions. And to take it one step further, I got the extension extension tube from Fujifilm, throw this on that lens, the 90mm, and you have a beautiful macro product where you can get these super tight shots without having to invest in an entirely different lens. Now, if you're doing exclusively macro photography, I will say get a dedicated lens for that. But for those of you that are gonna do occasional macro photography, this lens with that extension tube works really well. All in all, the 90mm f2.0 offers some noticeable improvements over the 56 1.2 with a better aperture ring, faster focusing, and weather sealing. And it all does this in a way that can get an even more intimate composition. And for that reason, it's my number 2 lens and it's my go-to portrait lens. Number 3 on my list is the 16mm f1.4 lens. This is my wide lens. This is the one I go to when I want to grab more of the environment or tell a more expanded perspective with my story in video. Does that make sense? Okay, maybe I'll try this again. When you just want to get this really enveloping perspective, but not make it garishly wide, that, you know, an 8-16 might be just a little bit too much. That's what this lens is for. It has a manual clutch focus where you can actually go 120 degrees so you know where you're pulling focus, but with a quick clutch, you can go into autofocus mode. Again, I don't think there's any other lens in the Fujifilm system that does this. I think this is the only one. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but it's such a premium lens and a premium feature to have that I really wish more lenses operated like this one. The optics are astounding. I mean, it's probably number 1 or number 2. So for those of you that are into architecture or landscapes, you'll definitely appreciate a lens like this. And again, when you're using it in video, it works incredibly well. Now you can shoot it at 1.4, but things get really special at f4 because of its, ED elements in this lens. You get a really sharp image, a really unique fall off between your subject and the background, and also a lot less chromatic aberration and ghosting and flaring. It's just such a really, really, really good lens. So for those of you that are a fan of this focal length, I will say go check out my full review. We actually shot some pretty cool portraits of a trapeze a silk acrobat artist. My God, our model is gonna kill me for not remembering this. But anyway, I'll leave a review. We got to test out this lens in a really cool production, and I have to say, if I wasn't already in love with it before that shoot, I felt even more in love with it. So again, that's number 3 spot for the 16mm f1.4. I keep looking there because it's over there. I should have just brought it over here like my camera person told me to. Next time. Number 4 on the list, and this is a new addition, folks, it is the 50mm f1.0. After I got rid of the 56, I felt that there was a bit of a gap in this mid-telephoto range, right? It just quickly jumped up to 90. And then, to be honest, the reason I sold the 56 was because I got the 90 and there was also rumors of the 50 1.0 coming out. So I decided to sell that a bit early, focus on the 90 with portrait, and look to see, would this 50 1.0 deliver? Spoiler alert, it delivers. Check out my review of this lens. I feel like this is something I'm saying for each of these lenses. Well, that's because we did the hard work and did a review for each of these lenses. I digress. The 50mm 1.0, it is very special. And its construction and its engineering, it gives you that similar beautiful fall off that you would get from a 35mm 1.4 or 56mm 1.2, but even more so because you can go to f1.0. Now you won't use 1.0 in all environments, but to have this as the creative ceiling that you can sort of, use as needed is incredibly valuable in the Fuji X-mount system. The equivalent is about 75mm focal length and f1.4, but again, that is giving you really buttery fall off that makes for compelling images, both in photo and for video. Now you add on top of this, they have a modern focusing system, weather resistance built in, and a tighter aperture ring than the 56. It makes for a really complete product. I know, I'm mentioning a lot of lenses that, may not be the top of the list for many people because of their price point. I'm just giving you what my top 5 are right now. If I were starting off, no, this would not be the first lens I get, but having been able to attribute this lens to a lot of fantastic images I've created recently, I can't imagine my kit without it. When I'm on a production that is requiring a lot of portrait work, or building a campaign around a person or clothing or fashion for that matter, I'll lean to this lens in the 90, where the 90 is gonna give me my tight, intimate shots, and I'm gonna use my feet to pull back and then use the 50, or sometimes even get close, but just use that f1.0 for a unique fall off. I'll hover between those two lenses and occasionally go to the 16 for a super wide, interesting perspective. But suffice to say, it has earned its spot in my kit. Anytime I'm going on a professional shoot and I'm taking images of people or fashion, this lens is coming along with me. I didn't think I'd like this lens as much as I did, but if I'm being honest, it's the new cheat code. I feel like I called the 90 the cheat code as well. This is the new cheat code. Yeah. And number 5 on this list, okay, for the love of God, I'll just hold it up right now. It is the 35mm f1.4. And for you longtime watchers of this channel, you'll know that I'm not really a fan of the 50mm equivalent focal length. I've actually made some videos kind of knocking it. But you know what? I got my hands on this lens. I decided to give it, the old college try. In fact, I took it on a trip across India, and that was gonna be my exclusive photography lens outside of the 90, of course. And I fell in love. It's a character lens. It's something that really does give a unique look and perspective. And when I'm in the streets, when I'm capturing for myself, when I'm capturing more for fun, this is the lens that I like to take. It competes with the 23mm f2.0 for me. So I guess by including both of these lenses on the list, it tells you personally where I rank them when I'm shooting for myself for fun. But for you, it'll depend on what you prefer. If you like that 50mm focal length, I'll tell you, for your Fuji camera, you gotta consider this 35mm 1.4. Many people in the past, Fuji shooters, have told me this is a magical lens. You gotta try it out, you gotta get it. And I ignored them to my own detriment. I deeply regret not getting this as part of my collection sooner. And I gotta say, I shot some of my best work with this lens. Images that, really still appeal to me to this day. If you know anything about me or this channel, you'll know that I am often not really satisfied with my work. I kind of just keep looking for the next shot. But, with this lens, I was able to capture some images that even to this day, I'm very, very happy with. So that alone earns this lens a spot in my top 5. And let's be honest, it doesn't have the best focusing. It doesn't have weather resistance. It's not something that you'll really want to use for video unless you're daring and willing and comfortable with manual focus. But it is, again, a character lens. And there's something about that, there's something tangible about that makes you want to include it in more productions than not. And if at the very least, have it as your travel street lens that you can carry around with you and know that it's gonna give you, well, character. I will say the review for this lens is one of my personal favorites. So again, I'll leave a link in the description where you guys can check it out and learn more about the story. But yeah, number 5, the 35mm 1.4, that rounds out the list. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're wondering, what are the other lenses that you have or had that didn't make the list? Well, the 16 to 55 f2.8, that didn't make my list for the top 5 when it comes to photography. The 16mm 2.8 didn't make the list. The 50mm 2.0 didn't make the list. The 80mm macro didn't make the list. The 60mm macro didn't make the list. Yeah, we played with a lot of lenses, and those are just the Fujifilm branded ones. There's also a bunch of third-party lenses. But in any case, these are my, honest top 5 lenses for photography. Do I take all of them for all of my productions? No, I look to see what the goal is and will take the 2 or 3 that I need. But I don't imagine my kit being not comprised of these 5 lenses, if that makes sense. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video brought you some value and maybe even helped you make a better buying decision. If you have any questions, as always, I do read all the comments, so let's continue the conversation in the comments below. And if you're not already, please do consider subscribing to the channel because it does make a difference. And I can't wait to share all the cool content we have planned in the new year with you guys. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. As always, my name is Gajan. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.